What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here. Crash Bandicoot is now owned by Microsoft, and I, a huge Crash Bandicoot fan and huge PlayStation fan since birth, who has never owned an Xbox console in his life, am actually very excited. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I know there are some concerns, but let's go over the good stuff first. Stay optimistic. First, and most importantly, hopefully this means the situation at Activision Blizzard will actually change. For those who don't know, there's been so many problems of employee mistreatment, harassment, and discrimination going on over there for the longest time. Now, while this move to Microsoft doesn't guarantee change, it does raise the potential for it quite drastically. I think even the CEO of Activision is supposed to leave as soon as this deal is complete, which is a huge plus. Just be sure to keep your eyes on the situation and help the employees' voices be heard for a better work environment. If you really love Crash Bandicoot, you'll prioritize the devs who make his games before any form of content, without hesitation. So, keep up the fight. Now speaking of content, let's go over what this could mean for Crash's games in the future. An interesting thing to note is that this is actually the first time Crash has been directly owned by a first-party company. Sony actually never owned Crash. At all. Ever. Period. Check the history. He may have been exclusive and seen as somewhat of a mascot, but he was never an official PlayStation property. And second, this is the first time Crash Bandicoot has been directly purchased instead of just inherited or given to them like he was for Activision. Microsoft wanted this property. In fact, Microsoft has even opened up recently about how they need more family-friendly franchises on their platform, so this purchase clearly wasn't just for Call of Duty. For more proof on this, look no further than what I consider to be 2021's Game of the Year, Double Fine's Psychonauts 2. It was a crowdfunded game that was struggling so much with delays, running out of budget, a bunch of other stuff, but then Microsoft swooped in, funded the game themselves, bought Double Fine and said take as long as you need, and they got to make the game they wanted, and it is fantastic. I genuinely love Psychonauts 2 so much. May even be my new favorite game of all time. I definitely recommend checking it out. Trust me guys, we're not in the 2000s or early 2010s anymore. Microsoft is actually doing stuff with the studios and franchises they purchase now. And plus, whenever the next Smash game comes along, this will actually make getting Crash in the game so much easier. The biggest roadblock for that beforehand was probably Activision themselves, being stingy and probably asking for too much money. Even managing to convince Disney to let their property in the game didn't shake that worry. But now, Activision answers to Microsoft, so all Sakurai has to do is go to them, who gave him Banjo and Steve, and voila, Crash is his too. And the final bit of optimistic news is that the existing projects that are going on right now won't be meddled or tampered with during this move. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4, the long-rumored Spyro 4, and whatever the heck Wumpa League is and however much they have done. All of those should continue as they are now. The only projects that should be affected are ones that aren't started until after this deal is complete. Take a look at the previously mentioned Psychonauts 2 for example, which still ended up as a multi-platform game even after the Double Fine purchase because that's what it was originally crowdfunded as. But now for the concerns. The biggest and most important concern is for the employees at Activision, who fear that the news of this buyout is going to cover up all the news and controversy Activision has faced over the past few years and completely overshadow their efforts to get a change in work environment. That's a 100% understandable fear, and hopefully that won't be the case. Thankfully, Microsoft isn't dumb enough to spend that much money on a sinking ship. They're gonna want to repair it and build it up better than ever. As long as we keep making our voices heard and keep fighting for the employees at Activision, there will be change. Out of the big three, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft is probably the most consumer-friendly right now, so they'd listen to us the most. But now on to the next concern. There's a fear that Crash Bandicoot is going to become an Xbox exclusive franchise, and that PlayStation owners won't get to play any of his future games. However, I don't think this will be the case, at least not for a while. Crash makes way too much money on PlayStation. They'd make more money keeping Crash multi-platform than they would keeping him exclusive, since Crash isn't really a system seller, unlike Call of Duty. The only people that would really buy an entire game system just for Crash are people like me and other hardcore Crash fans. Meanwhile, Call of Duty attracts more casual gamers who don't really play video games much at all unless it is Call of Duty, so they won't hold on to any brand loyalty. If Call of Duty's on Xbox, they'll get an Xbox, even if they played it on PlayStation before. I could see Call of Duty becoming exclusive to Xbox because it would benefit their hardware sales, but Crash wouldn't do that. Now, way down the line, if Crash becomes more and more associated with Xbox, I could see him becoming exclusive in the future, but I think we're good, at least for the entirety of this console generation that just started. I mean, despite this year being the 20th anniversary of Microsoft buying Rare and all their properties, they still let Banjo and Kazooie show up on the Switch today, because that's where they're best known, with Nintendo. And speaking of Banjo and Kazooie, that's where the final concern lies, that Crash and Spyro will end up in the same place. But luckily, this is the weakest concern of them all. The reason Banjo's situation is so scary is because there's so much misinformation about it. You see, Microsoft is completely open to a brand new Banjo game, but it's up to Rare. And the thing is, all the original developers are no longer at Rare. They're at Playtonic or whoever it was that made Yooka-Laylee. Microsoft never let Banjo just sit there and rot. Rare did that. The current Rare just doesn't want to make Banjo. Meanwhile, Toys for Bob, who is moving to Microsoft with Activision, actively loves making Crash and Spyro. They're in love with the franchise and always excited to make more content for them. Many of the devs were even pretty open in their disappointment for having to work on a Call of Duty game instead of something Crash and Spyro related. So even if Microsoft treats Crash exactly the same as Banjo and goes, well, it's up to Toys for Bob, you can bet your sweet wumpa that we'll see plenty more Crash. But those are my thoughts on this whole situation. I do have my minor concerns here and there, and a big concern regarding Activision's employees getting proper treatment. But overall, in regards to Crash and all their franchises and everything else, I'm cautiously, but very, optimistic. Let me know what you guys think though. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? And what do you hope to see from Crash and Spyro and Tony Hawk on Xbox? Tell me down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Leopold the Brave, out.